Hi everyone, this is Ray and this is my Filofax, and I'm just going to give you a brief tour of it. It's quite a functional Filofax. There's very little in here that's in any way decorative, so if that's the kind of thing you're into, you're not going to get very much out of this, and I'll warn you now. Okay, opening him up, what you can see here is a fairly standard view that you'll see, I guess, in most people's Filofaxes. Over here on the left side I've got not credit cards, but I've got things like frequent flyer cards, airport lounge memberships, hotel loyalty cards and so on. A couple of business cards tucked in there. Now the reason I don't use that for credit cards is that I have a wallet, and I keep my credit cards in my wallet. That's what I'm used to doing. I don't keep them in the Filofax, but the Filofax always travels with me in hand baggage, so it just makes sense to put the flight and hotel cards in there, so I'll always have them when I need them. Now, tucked in this huge front pocket here, I've got a huge set of post-it tabs and index markers, which are very useful. Tucked into this pocket here I have papers which are maybe temporarily useful, but haven't found a way into the main system yet, or contain information that I need to transcribe. I have the please return this binder form. I lost a Malden earlier in the year. It had one of these in as well, but didn't seem to do any good. I'm not going to see that one again. My first tab is diary. I'll show you the diary, but I think people will be quite surprised, given that I design inserts, that I'm actually using a standard Filofax diary layout here. The reason for that's quite simple. In the Malden I had one that I'd carefully designed and printed and punched, and worked well for me, but when I lost that I had to buy a new binder, and it came with a current year diary, so I didn't really want to waste that, so I've got a standard week on 2 pages 2012 diary in here, which is the one that they all come with. If I take you to today, you can see there's an awful lot going on in here. It's relatively functional, but you will see these post-its which I put in there to track recurring tasks. So for instance, I have to do a timesheet every Friday. That's there to remind me that I have to do it this Friday. And when I've done it, I'll take that off and I'll stick it in next week on Friday. That works very well for me. Also, if I have a task that has to be done at a particular time, that will be in this section. It won't be on the task lists. At the back of the diary section, I have a supply of these monthly planners. This is a form I created that helps me on a monthly basis plan forward and look backwards. So this is the first page, and here I will list my goals for the month. What are the significant events that are coming up during the month that I might want to plan around or take care of? It allows me to set some financial targets, so a target for debt repayment, a target for savings, and also habits that I want to start or continue or stop during the month. Then during the month I've got this space over here on the other side where I capture goals, habits and so on for next month, and put down ideas for things that might need to go on next month's monthly planner. I can then at the end of the month review it and give it a numerical score for a few things. And what I've found is giving yourself a score for the month really does focus your mind on being productive and effective each month. So I'm enjoying that a great deal. And then I can also add notes and reflections. So there's one that, for instance, I filled out for May. That was quite a good month. I'm not going to tell you what I scored myself in that month, but it wasn't a bad one. What I'm going to do instead is go to the notes section. Now in notes, I use this like anyone uses a notebook, I suppose. It's to write down things that would otherwise be forgotten, typically things that I need to keep track of, perhaps temporarily. Also, I print things out and stick them in here if I want to carry them around with me, if they're temporarily useful to know. But that's broadly the notes section. Lots of paper encouraging me to write down things if in any doubt at all whether I'll need them. I've then got the money section, and the money section only has one thing in it. It's my expenses envelope. So I'm self-employed. I'm freelance. So it's important to me to keep a note of all the things that I'm spending money on, because most of them I can get tax back on. Which account they came from. And this is also an envelope so inside it I can store all of those receipts and so on, so that at the end of the period I just have to take this out of the binder and give it to my financial controller, also known as my wife, who does the accounts for the business, and she finds that very useful. Then I have the tasks tab. Now, as I said earlier, recurring tasks or time-specific ones go in the diary, and what goes in here is a sort of long-term running list of tasks. I make sure that I only write on these in Frixion, so I can use a trick that I learned from Neil, which is to put this in the microwave for a minute or so, and then I've got a brand new to-do list once it's finished. I've got another section in here as well where I have a supply of these things that I call the media wish list, which I designed and printed myself. And this is a list of books, music, DVDs and so on that people recommend to me, or I see a trailer for and I think, oh, I want to watch that. I put an entry in here. Then when I've obtained it, I tick the first box. But you know, having these things is only part of the problem. I can't tell you how many books that I've bought just to sit on a shelf, how many DVDs that 2 years later are still in their plastic. So I've got a second tick box here that says, you know what, as well as owning it, I've also read it or watched it or listened to it. So that helps me track that and be a more sensible consumer, I guess you'd say. My next section is information. And the first thing that you find in information is I've been working on a couple of these Filofax mini sagas, little 50-word novels. If you want to know what that's all about, then do a Google and look for Filofax mini saga, and you'll find Barry's site where he'll tell you all about it. And they really are great fun. I'd certainly encourage anyone to have a go. Then I've got a tab to some information on sort of passwords and account IDs. They're all in a kind of shorthand and all slightly compressed, so they won't mean anything to anyone except me. I could put these in the notes section, but the difference for me is if it's in information, it's likely to be information that I'm going to need in the longer term, rather than something that I'm just going to have to refer to for a short while. And if it goes in information, it's on yellow paper, so I know that that's long term. I have another tab over here which contains a number of these time and activity sheets that I designed. And like all the ones I've designed myself, you can download templates from my blog and print those yourself if you want. These are useful where I'm working for a number of clients and have to bill them all separately, and they enable me to track my time very effectively. I'm not doing that at the moment, but they're very useful for doing that. Last tab section I've got is called People. Now I don't carry around with me, oh look, there's a world map. Keep a world map in there because, well, you know, it's where I live, why not? What I don't do is carry lots of contact information around with me in the Filofax. I have an iPhone that holds that and it syncs to Outlook. But what I don't like doing is tapping people's contact details into the iPhone. So if I get an address or I get some contact details that I need to record, I'll write them down in here and then later type them in Outlook when I get home. So behind all of that, I've got another Flyleaf at the back. That's not a Filofax one. I made that myself, I think, from a report cover. Cut it to size and punched it. So what I've got here is a top opening envelope which has got lots of stamps in it. More importantly, it's got this pen loop tab stuck to it. Now this is made by a company I shan't even try and pronounce, but you'll know it. You'll find it if you search for notebook pen loop. You will find it. They're available quite widely, and they give you a nice big elasticated pen loop into which you can pop a Frixion pen, which is quite wide and which I use quite widely, no pun intended. Then I've got space for credit cards, membership cards and so on. Behind that I've got the ubiquitous Filofax sticky notes page, and then we've got the back. Now I haven't got much going on here at the moment, but in the back here I've got a few more business cards in case I run out, and in the built-in pen loop I've got a mechanical pencil, which again I use quite extensively in the Filofax. That's it really. That's all you're going to find in my Filofax. It's quite workmanlike, I suppose. It's quite minimal, utilitarian, not overly stuffed. But you know, it works hard, or rather I work hard using it. It doesn't do anything. It's like those books on the shelf. If you're not reading them, they're not actually doing anything. If you're not working with a Filofax, it's not going to do anything for you. So I like to think of it as minimalist and uncluttered, and it does a job for me, and it does it very well. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and perhaps I'll make another one day.